I'll do my best to share as much as possible without revealing any classified project details, which will likely remain secret indefinitely. In my late 20s, I started working in specialized underground search and rescue. We were called to the most critical situations within a 200-mile radius, mostly involving people trapped in mines. Unfortunately, more than half of those missions turned out to be body recovery operations. Almost 5 years ago, I was pulled out of a routine safety training and called to my superior's office. He was there with another middle-aged man, black dress pants and a white shirt, but no jacket and no tie. He said, "John, this man works for the government and would like to talk to you." I immediately thought IRS. I hadn't filed my taxes that year. The man gave me a half smile and introduced himself as being from a government branch, something like the Department of Research and Exploration. He said, "Your boss has spoken highly of you. We're working on a project and need professionals like you with your skill set. You'd be away for 2 months and will require a security clearance." He handed me a piece of folded paper. "This is the compensation." The number was exponentially higher than anything I'd ever made. "Unfortunately," he said, "that's all I can share, and I need a yes or no." It probably sounds crazy, but I've always been adventurous, hence the work I do. Without even talking to my wife, I accepted the offer on the spot. As they say, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission. I boarded a small military aircraft at the local airport. The man from the office, 2 pilots, and I were the only ones on board. We landed at a tiny makeshift airfield in the middle of nowhere, then boarded a school bus with a few other people in civilian clothes. The bumpy ride lasted about an hour until we arrived at what looked like a makeshift base. Military green tents and Humvees scattered around. Behind the base, a 200 by 200 foot area was fenced off with chain link. In the center was a massive industrial mining drill, the largest I'd ever seen, and unlike any model I'd ever seen. We were escorted off the bus into a tent with 6 desks facing a projector screen. Each desk had a single piece of paper on it. It simply read, "Your security clearance has been approved. You will be here for 2 months. Do not share any details of the project or your time here with anyone, including family or friends, for the rest of your life. Failure to comply will result in legal prosecution by the government of the United States." At the bottom, a line read, "Sign here." No names, no letterhead, just this blank form. A man in military uniform decorated with medals entered and stood before the screen. "Afternoon, gentlemen," he said. "It looks like everyone has signed their forms, so let me explain why you're here." In the late 1980s, the US government detected unusual densities beneath the Earth's surface, accompanied by abnormal vibrations. We initiated a mission to investigate these anomalies, drilling 20 miles into the planet, right here at this location. At the 20-mile mark, our equipment failed when it encountered an unidentified alloy, a strange combination of stone and metal. At the time, it was impossible to penetrate that layer. However, we've since developed the technology to breach this barrier using the drill you likely noticed on your way in. The barrier is approximately 20 feet thick, and we are just 5 feet away from breaking through. This will happen within the next 12 hours. Given your diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise, you've been selected to explore what lies beneath the barrier. The temperatures at these depths are extreme, so you'll be equipped with suits to protect you from the heat, as well as any dangerous gases or elements that may be present. The mission will commence tomorrow at 1700. Although you've all been sworn to secrecy, your efforts today will play a crucial role in advancing human exploration and deepening our fundamental understanding of Earth. If any of you wish to leave, now is your chance. A bus is waiting outside and the flight is ready to take you home. If you choose to stay, you'll be shown to your barracks. Any questions?" He glanced over our stunned faces and said, "Good luck. God is with you," and left the room. We stood around the 5-foot diameter hole looking in. A faint red hue illuminated it. "Portal to hell," one of the guys commented. The descent took an hour and a half, but it felt much longer. The further we went, the hotter it became. At first, the warmth was barely noticeable, just a slight discomfort. But as we continued, the heat pressed in like a heavy blanket, suffocating and relentless. My skin felt sticky with sweat. Breathing would have been impossible if it wasn't for our oxygen and masks. The hole emitted a faint red glow, almost like a dying ember in the dark, and it grew more intense as we dropped deeper. The light flickered across the walls, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and twist, playing tricks on our eyes. The air was thick with the smell of sulfur, mingling with something sharp and metallic that somehow permeated our masks. It made my stomach turn. None of us spoke a word. The look of terror on our faces explained why. We were all tethered to a thick rope, the only thing keeping us connected. Our feet set in place with sturdy pegs fastened onto the rope. I remember staring at one of the red buttons on the rope, a signal to abort the mission if things went wrong as we got deeper. The walls were slick with an oil that must have been used for the drilling process, and the hum from below was constant. A low vibration that felt like it was seeping into my bones and rattling my eyes. I couldn't help but glance at the others, their faces pale in the dim red light. The rope creaked under the weight of our descent, and I could feel my fingers slipping with the sweat building up in my palms. If this was what it felt like halfway down, I couldn't begin to imagine what it would be like once we reached the bottom. The rope went slack as we stepped off, our boots landing with a soft thud on the solid ground. The heat down there was overwhelming. A suffocating warmth that seemed to come from everywhere, not just the ground beneath us, but the very air itself. And the smell had gotten 10 times worse. The glow around us, faint at first, began to pulse with a deep red hue, the light coming from further down a jagged tunnel that led to what seemed like a fiery, hellish abyss. The ground beneath our feet was uneven, cracked with jagged, slag-like spikes that made every step more uncomfortable. The wall stretched up so high that the ceiling was lost in the shadows, and the red glow cast an eerie light on everything around us. As we ventured forward, the air grew thick with the smell of refined metal. We reached the end of the tunnel, and as we stepped through it, we froze, paralyzed in awe. Below us, stretching into the vastness of the cave, lay an entire world, I guess. The red glow revealed an industrial landscape unlike anything I'd ever seen. Massive superstructures, towers that stretched impossibly high, their designs too foreign to comprehend. They were unlike anything human-made, jagged and angular, covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and morph. The sheer scale of it was enough to make me feel small, insignificant, a speck in a place where nothing should exist. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying this video so far. I've made it a personal goal to reach 50 subscribers by the end of March, so if you want to be notified next time I make a video, hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the video. Lava poured through the cracks in the ground. Rivers of molten rock snaking their way through the landscape like veins of fire. The heat radiated in waves, distorting the air around it. The lava moved slowly, sluggishly, as though it was controlled by something unseen, something ancient. The ground shook intermittently, like it was shifting under the weight of some unseen force. I felt heavy, like gravity was amplified, pushing down on me, making even walking more difficult. And then, the beings. I barely saw them at first. Tall, thin shapes, but still paling in size compared to the industrial structures. They were hard to focus on, almost like they flickered in and out of existence, but their presence was undeniable. It almost felt like we were watching a movie, or they really didn't care about our presence. Their actions were robotic, but oddly graceful. They worked, but there was no discernible purpose to it. Their long limbs stretched unnaturally as they climbed the structures, their forms blending into the red haze as if they were part of the environment itself. What chilled me to the bone wasn't the sight of them, but the eerie silence that surrounded them. Despite the immense scale of the industrial wasteland below us, there was no sound. No clanging of metal, no whirling of machinery. Just that slow, rhythmic pulse of the lava and the deep hum that seemed to come from the very walls of the cavern. It was as if everything had existed here in some kind of suspended animation, frozen in time yet alive in some way we couldn't comprehend. Somehow the drilling and our descent had gone unnoticed. The drill had breached the surface only a few hours ago, yet there was no sign that anything down here had even reacted to it. No alarm, no response. It was as if the world below had been waiting for something, but not us. Or like they were preparing for something. We were insignificant here, an intrusion, a glitch in the fabric of something ancient, something far beyond human understanding. It was a place of fire and metal, of impossible structures and strange ghostly beings. It felt wrong, like stepping into a world that never should have been found. It was a nightmare made real. We didn't need to speak. The decision was made the moment we saw that world below us. We walked back to the tunnel. A single, unified emotion shattered whatever fragile sense of control we came in with. The rope creaked itself as it tightened, pulling us back toward the surface. No words were exchanged. We didn't need them. The terror we felt was far too deep for words. We finally broke through the surface, and as our boots hit the ground, I felt like I could breathe again. But it wasn't a sense of relief, it was a sense of survival. The man who had led us into this place stood waiting. He looked at us, his face unreadable, and nodded as we emerged, one by one. Some of us couldn't even look him in the eye. We were all shaken, too raw to process what had just happened. "Thank you for your service," he said, his voice calm and devoid of any emotion. "You've done your part, and we'll take it from here. No questions, no debriefing." I guess the look on our faces told him enough. Clearly, they already somehow knew what was down there. Looking back, I think we were just a test, to see if people could survive. I don't know what's happening down there. I don't know what they plan to do next, but I can tell you this. There are some places that are meant not to be explored, and some things that should remain hidden. I wish I could forget what I saw, but I know that's impossible. The images of that world, the beings, the heat, the suffocating silence will stay with me for the rest of my life.